Hey, it's the Mike Rogers Show. Mike Rogers here with you. And today we have a very special, super special rock and roll star guest. She's the former lead singer of the Shanghais, the former guitarist and singer of the Control Freaks, the one, the only, Miss Natalie Sweet. Yay! So, Natalie, can you introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, I'm Natalie Sweet. I live here in Los Angeles. I'm a singer and a bass player and a guitar player and just a big fan of music. Happy to be making it.
That's really cool. You know, I've been playing you on the radio here in Japan, and the reaction from the listeners is really good.
That's so cool. What a dream.
I played you yesterday morning and 3 or 4 people wrote, "Oh, wow, Natalie Sweet, this is really cool. I'm going to have to start listening to this."
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. So can you tell us, you're living in LA. Have you always lived in LA?
No, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania originally. So the other side of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved out to California, I think about 12 years ago. I lived in San Francisco for about 6 years, and then I moved to LA, and that's where I am now. And I think I'm going to be here for a while.
That's cool. Actually, I'm from Ventura.
Oh, right on. Yeah, right up the road.
Yeah, but I haven't been there in like 40 years. So I'm sure it's changed quite a bit. So you say you started in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, were you playing in bands and doing stuff like that there?
No, I worked at Get Hip Records, if you're familiar with Get Hip.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I worked there, and I would organize things. I was more of a writer and a behind the scenes person when I lived in Pittsburgh. I feel like the way I sort of got involved in the music scene was starting as a fan and then being like, oh, what can I do to contribute? I'll review the band or review the show or host the party. So I kind of came in that way. And then I worked at I worked at a record store, worked at a record distributor, kind of came in through there. And then and then eventually became a DJ. And then way later in my life, I got brave enough to make my own music.
I don't know. Being a DJ takes a lot of bravery, I think.
Yeah.
I don't mean that. Yeah, I'm a DJ and I'm brave. I'm not brave at all. But yeah, this is a difficult job. So are you DJing now?
No, it's funny. I DJ'd a lot in Philadelphia. I lived in Philadelphia after college, and then moved to California. And as soon as I moved to California, they were like, "We're good. We don't need any more power pop DJs. We got enough out here." I was like, "Okay." So I kind of haven't really done it in a while, but
do you know Rodney Bingenheimer?
I know who he is. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to work for him in 1980 to maybe start of 1982. I was his assistant.
Cool.
Gopher. I was the gopher.
Nice.
So through that experience, I met lots of really famous people, and I didn't know who they were. Because I was a suburban boy. I had no idea. But yeah, that was really cool. So if you meet Rodney, tell him that you're a friend of Mike Rogers.
I will. I hope I do get to meet him. I'm 1 degree of separation from him. I know many people that know him, but I don't.
Yeah. You know Cantor's, right?
I do.
Okay, he goes there almost every night.
I know. I think he was there yesterday.
Oh, was he?
I saw some pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you should go to Cantor's around 10 p.m. and just sit there and wait for him. That's the best way.
Camp out.
Just hang out and then walk up to him and tell him, "Hey, Rodney, I'm a friend of Mike Rogers." And he'll go, "Wow." Oh, because I still work for Rodney.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So tell us about your childhood. Did you play piano or something like that?
Yeah, honestly, like I did piano a little bit, and I did flute. And it's funny because I was talking recently about how my piano teacher was really mean, and I just remember her telling me that I like absolutely had no rhythm, and who do I think I am? And it just like makes me laugh because I play rhythm. So I was just like, that is so weird that stuck with me, but it stuck with me so much that it made me think that I shouldn't like try anything again until way later. So it's pretty funny. But my dad was actually a DJ in like the 60s and 70s. He was like, like a soul R&B, like doo-wop is kind of his jam.
Yeah.
So I'm the youngest of 4 kids. So he would blast like all this cool music when I was a little kid. And, it would come through like the heating duct and into my room. And I would be like, all right, so I would hear all these doo-wop songs and obsessed with them all. And then I like immediately got into like girl groups as soon as I heard, honestly, I would hear like movie soundtracks like Stand By Me or American Graffiti. Those soundtracks that have all those like 50s songs on them. And I was like, you're so cool. And then sadly, my dad got rid of a lot of records, like before I was cognizant of any of that. But when I was a little kid, there was a handful of like records and a turntable in our basement. And I would play like Louie Louie and like Bill Haley and the Comets and like all these like rock bands, and I just loved it. I loved the Del Vikings like so much.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like that kind of, and my dad would always give me like the trivia, he'd be like, oh man, Del Vikings, they're from Pittsburgh where I grew up. So he'd be like, they're from Pittsburgh, the first integrated band in doo-wop, really proud of that. And I would be like, yeah, I know all these things. And I thought I was so cool. Like, so that kind of kicked me off into being like obsessed with music just from a little kid, because my dad just exposed me to all this cool stuff. So that just continued on like throughout my life. Like if I'd hear something cool, I would like have to get more of it. Like I would steal my brother's cassette tapes of like Guns N' Roses and like, because it's the 90s and let's see, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Pearl Jam and stuff. And I'd listen to them, but they had parental advisory. So I would like rewind them back to the exact spot and like replace it. So they didn't even know I was just like listening to their tapes. I had a Walkman. I was in like 4th grade and I was like blasting all these songs, but it's just like, that's how I got my fix. Oh, and I would record stuff off the radio onto tape.
Yeah, people used to do that.
Yeah.
Long time ago. So I want to say something about your piano teacher. So you say your piano teacher was really mean. And, but in Japan, teachers are the meanest to their best students.
She didn't think I was good. She told me I had no rhythm. And
yeah, but they'll do that here. They'll do that here. You have no rhythm. You'll never make it anything like that. And it's kind of a reverse psychology to make the people, okay, I'll show you. So that's how they do things. Probably it's not that way today, but it used to be. So a karate teacher or a piano teacher, everybody hated their teachers because they were so mean. But that meant you were a good student.
Like if they want, okay, I get it. It's the classic, like.
Yeah, it's a very, this country is like 3,000 years old. So old, what do you say? Old habits die slowly. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Your dad, what station was your dad on?
I don't know the name of the station. He lived in upstate New York when he was young, in a little town called Olean, which is like south of Buffalo, New York, I believe. So this was like forever ago. And then he was in the Vietnam War, and he was like a radio correspondent during the war. Yeah. So he came, DJ guy.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
How long did you play piano?
Probably like a couple years, and I did flute Yeah, for 2 years I played the flute. And I was in musical theater, so I was always like singing and stuff.
Mhm.
But I just moved on to singing and like acting and dance, and didn't do any instruments again until I was in my 30s.
Well, it's never too late to start.
I know. I mean, it's worked out for me so far, but yeah.
You're too young to know this music, like the Del Vikings and stuff like that. So
I mean, yes, it was before I was born, but it's on a record, you can listen to it. And I had a good teacher. I feel like the first teacher was like my dad with his taste.
Mhm.
And then I started right after it was kind of my own stuff throughout high school and stuff. And friends would give me tapes and I'd be like checking new stuff out. And then in college, I started working at a little record store, and the owner of that store was just like so knowledgeable and interesting. And I would just like absorb all his info. He shared a lot of music with me. And then I started working at Get Hip, and the owner of Get Hip is the guitar player for the Cynics. His name's Greg Kostelich. And he is just like, he just knows everything about music. He shared a lot of stuff with me, and just working around all those records and getting to like see what people were buying and what the record stores were buying. I was like, ooh, checking out a ton of stuff. And then just like each next person I would meet would sort of like open my eyes up to new stuff. So yeah.
Usually I ask this question to bands and stuff, and they're really embarrassed, but I bet you won't be embarrassed. And I bet the first record you ever bought was probably a very cool record.
Honestly,
with your own money.
I know it. I can tell you what it was. And it's like actually like very of the time. You have to put yourself in the time, which is the early-ish mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
The first record I bought with my own money was The Counting Crows, August
Mm-hmm.
and Everything After.
Mm-hmm.
I then bought, is that right? Yes. I then bought Weezer Blue album.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the soundtrack to Clueless.
Wow. Those are all pretty cool though.
Yeah, they're good.
Usually
Counting Crows is like a little 90s-y. Weezer would have been a cooler first one, but I gotta tell the truth.
Yeah, well, usually people tell me something like, yeah, the first record I bought was Debbie Gibson or the Carpenters, and I'm just like laughing at them.
I mean, I bought some singles. I was when I first got money, I would walk to this Sam Goody like music store.
Oh, yeah.
In the mall that I lived in a suburb, and right behind my house was this like mini mall. Mm-hmm. And there was a Sam Goody, and I would walk through the woods in my backyard and pop out in the parking garage of this mall and go to the Sam Goody and spend like, save up like $3 and buy a cassette single. And I got In Vogue, Never Gonna Get It.
Oh.
Which is great. Their voices are great.
I know the name. I know the name of the band. Isn't that 3 ladies?
I think it's 4.
4 ladies.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's a 90s girl group,
Yeah.
They're an R&B girl group. They harmonize, and their voices are nuts. It's awesome. And I bought remember that band Green Jelly?
Yes. I remember. What happened to them?
They had one song, I think. I mean, I was a little kid. I was like 11 or 12, and I bought their tape.
Well, that's pretty cool because most of
I bought like Ace of Base. I bought tapes before I got CDs. I told you my first CD that I bought. I'm trying to remember the first actual album that I bought. That's tricky. It might have been that I got the Nirvana Unplugged in New York cassette. The Counting Crows and Weezer and stuff, those were CDs. So I didn't get CDs till I was like 12. But I was buying singles and stuff like that when I was in elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah.
CDs came out, I was 28 or something like that, I think. And I went to the store and saw these CDs and thought, wow, these are going to last forever. And I bought all the David Bowie CDs they had. And
yeah,
they all got recalled because Bowie never signed a contract to do digital things, and so now they're really valuable collector's items. But being an idiot, I wrote my name all over the front of them.
Yeah, I wrote N Sweet on every CD I had. And
Wait a minute.
Like,
is Natalie Sweet, is that your real name? Are you
That's-
in relation to Rachel Sweet?
I like to tell people that she's my cousin, but no. Rachel Sweet and Matthew Sweet and Natalie Sweet, and
That's right.
And we're all power pop, but no.
Oh,
I don't think so. I wish, but it's my real name. Yeah, my name is my real name.
so this is weird. I see you're wearing a Nikki Corvette shirt.
I am.
I interviewed her yesterday.
Nikki's one of my dearest friends.
Oh,
And
is she?
She is, and she's such an inspiration that gotta wear the Nikki shirt.
That's so cool. So,
She's amazing. I really I almost sent you a photo of me and Nikki from last summer. She was in LA and we went to Santa Monica Pier together.
wow.
Got some ice cream and cotton candy. It was really fun.
Yeah, you know, I interviewed Nikki and
She's extremely cool.
yes, she's extremely cool. So what was the first concert that you went to that you bought tickets for?
Oh, that was No Doubt.
Oh, no doubt.
No Doubt. It was I was in 8th grade, so I was like 14.
Mhm.
Which might be old, I don't know. And it was like at a big amphitheater, like outdoor thing. And our parents were like, you can go if somebody's parents are taking you. And my friend's dad was like, I'm taking the girls. And then he like dropped us off and he's like, okay, guys, meet you later. And we were like, yeah.
What a cool dad.
He was like actually the coolest dad / the biggest nerd, but I just loved him so much. And he was just like, I know you guys he came to the show. He was there, but nowhere near us. Like we didn't see him. He's just like, meet back here when it's over. It's like, yeah. And I think that every girl in the Pittsburgh area that year who is involved in rock and roll at all was at that show. It's kind of like, it's a lot of people's first show that I know of. That year was
Really?
Yeah, that was my first one in an amphitheater, like a big outdoor venue. And then I'm trying to remember what my first in a club show was, because it was the same year. And I want to say it was like Everclear and Letters to Cleo. I'm almost certain it was.
Everclear was a one-hit wonder, weren't they?
They had a few hits.
Oh, they had a few hits. Okay, so tell us about the first band you were ever in.
That's the Shanghais. My first band is the Shanghais. I started it when I was 29.
Wow. Why? Why did you start the band? Where'd you find your other members? And tell us about that.
Okay, my little story, which I've told many times, but it's true. I went to my friend Travis Raymond. He's a very good friend of mine, and he produced my album. He and my friend Dana put together a music festival. I feel like it was in 2012. I think it was 2012 in Minnesota, and it was called Girls Got Rhythm. And the whole idea of it was 2 days of music, and each band was like, mostly women in the band or featuring women. And it was a really cool festival. We had just like a ton of cool bands were coming to it. And the biggest deal was that it was many of my favorites, including Nikki, including the Muffs, who are hugely favorites of mine. And the biggest deal, Ronnie Spector. Incredible. In a club, like in a small club in Minnesota. So I lived in San Francisco at the time, and I was like, I'm going to that. No way I'm missing that. So I went with my best friend, and we shared a hotel room with Nikki. We had a rental car, and I was like driving that band, the Yum Yums, around. And we're just, well, it's Caroline and the Treats, excuse me. But it's just really just the most fun weekend ever. And I just was feeling like so inspired and awesome that weekend. And, we're standing outside on maybe the second day. And it's like, I'm friends with a lot of people in the bands. The Little Girls played, the Midnight Snacks played, 5, 6, 7, 8s, White Mystery. It was stacked. It was crazy awesome. So I'm just like high on rock and roll, standing in a little circle with Nikki, Caroline from Caroline and the Treats, my friend Sola, and a couple of Caroline's bandmates. And we're all just like, wow. And Caroline's like, Natalie, why isn't there a Natalie in the Treats? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't have any talent. And Nikki goes, oh, you just make a band form around you. That's what I did. And I was like, oh. And I was like, okay, all right. Wait, you guys think I should do that? And I looked over at my friend Sola and she was like, you have spare time. You should do that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna, okay, you guys say I can do it. I'm gonna go home and try to make that happen. Like, which is insane. So I go back to San Francisco and I like called up my friend Danielle, who had been my pal in Philadelphia. Then she moved to the Bay Area, and like a couple years later, I moved there and we like reconnected. And she's like a really talented musician and was down to do something. And I was like, hey, like, let's start a band that's kind of like, you know, I was really into like the Donnas and the Riff Randalls and like all these like punkier versions of like a Nikki thing, you know. I really wanted girls and harmonies and like all that stuff. And so Danielle and I just started like playing around. She could play guitar, and that's how we like started to form the band. Funnily, it was really hard. I really wanted like a girl band. I was very like, I wanted all women. I thought that would be the best. Had a tough time getting that lineup together. Like it would always be like one guy, one guy or something in the mix. But everybody that ever played, because the lineup changed a little bit, everybody that ever played was just awesome. It was just such a great, really fun band. So we just started writing some songs. She was like, we should record before we play. So I had first time ever recording. We made a little like 7-inch and started playing shows in San Francisco. And that's how the Shanghais came to be. And then through playing in the Shanghais, my friend Greg Lowry, or Greg Ripoff, some people call him that. He was at one of our shows, and then he was like, I want to do a band with you. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, you're going to play guitar and sing in this band with me. And I was like, I don't play guitar. And he's like, you will.
Oh yeah, sure. Anyone can do it.
Oh, okay. All right, man. I guess I will. And we started the Control Freaks.
How long did the Shanghais last? Is it still around or?
Not really. I mean, when I moved to LA like 6 years ago, I like kind of thought I had this like fantasy in my head that I would go back to San Francisco like all the time and keep the band going and stuff. But that's not really realistic when you're trying to like live your normal life too and have a job and stuff. So
yeah,
kind of just like fizzled out a little bit, and that's cool. It was just like time to try some other stuff. So the Shanghais were really like, we had like 2 eras. I had like a first lineup, and then that kind of like, which I guess was a couple of years. Yeah, I guess probably like, I can't even remember when our first show is. It's not sad. I could just do some math and probably figure it out. But I feel like it was all about like 8 or 9 years ago when it all started, or maybe 10 years ago, or maybe 11. Oh my God.
Yeah, I have that same problem.
I don't even know. I think that yeah, I guess it went on for like 5 years or more. It's a little weird.
What was the high point of the Shanghais? Like the best show you played? Or
I've never heard myself on the radio, but I know I'm on there, but I've just never heard it. So I look forward to that day. The Shanghais, we got to go to Honolulu, and we played 3 shows in Honolulu. That was so fun. Yeah, that was like so cool.
You didn't have to pay any money if someone paid for you to come there?
We paid for our flights, but the rest of it we didn't pay for, and we made money. I mean, it ended up being very inexpensive trip, like a full vacation. The drummer of the Shanghai's name is Ali, and she grew up in Oahu. So she was like, hey, I know everybody there. we could just go there. And we stayed at her parents' house, which was amazing. And just hung out with like her friends. We played 3 shows at 3 different venues. We got to like practice in a cool practice space. I mean, it was really neat. And their music scene is really cool. And all the people come out and like support it. So every show was like rammed and just super fun. It was just like a blast. And that was a really cool moment for us. And when we got there, there were like posters of us.
Wow. Did you steal one of the posters? You must have stolen one of the posters.
No, it was this picture of me that was like really, I'm like singing very intensely. And I was like, whoa. But it was cool to see that like they were excited to have us. And like, that was just a good time. I would love to go back there anytime. But yeah, I mean, this was all very, Shanghai is a cool ass band I'm so proud of, but it felt very like underground, like not a ton of people know about the Shanghais because we were never really on like a big record label. And it's just on Bandcamp. Like it's not, it sort of never got a big release or anything like that. It's what would have been a Shanghai's record turned out to just become just a solo record of me because I was sort of in between bands and I didn't know. It just didn't sound like the same way like the Shanghai sounded. So I thought that it wouldn't be fair to like all the previous members to kind of call it that if I'm making it with different people,
That's really cool. Okay, so I want to end this part and I want to come back and talk to you about what's going on now. I want to talk to you about, I think you just made a record with Brad Marino.
Yeah, I did. I just realized I should just grab it. It's in the other room.
Okay, so we'll end part 1 here. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Natalie Sweet on the Mike Rogers Show. If you like this video, go down here, click like and subscribe, and we'll see you back here tomorrow with Miss Natalie Sweet. See ya. Bye.